Hi folks, it is Saturday the 2nd of March. I'm doing this video straight pretty much after the close for the week. Thought I'd get it done. This is the Aussie versus the US. Okay, it's been really tricky. We've just gone sideways here, as you can see. February's been a very dull month. Certainly no trend that you could ride for more than 2 or 3 days. We're up, we're down, you know, we're retracing the move, then we're retracing this move, then we're retracing the previous move up. So pretty dull. Here's my best suggestion for the Aussie dollar pair. We've got a low in February of 70.54. We've got a low the previous week of 70.68. So that's just holding. We dipped to 70.60. Where do we get to? 70.67. So we held last week. We held the previous week's high and low, which was both made on this day, on the 21st of February. So we're certainly going to have to move out of that range. Which should be significant if we do. I had 70.68, 70.65 I think as my support level anyway, mostly for that reason. So I would suggest a break below 70.50, which would clearly break the February low, would be our little sell signal, and we can then see some downside action, hopefully a trend to actually follow for a significant move. I'm looking for what am I looking for now? 70.30, 69.95, below 69.80, look for 69.55.50, which is just down here at the 61.8% fib. So that would be a nice move if it were to happen and if we could catch it. There's no guarantee because this market does seem to keep tracking back and forth, but there is a chance we'll get an extended move on a break below 70.50. It's worth a try. On a bounce, we have to look at the hourly chart. So I've put some fibs on the last move down. We've got moving average resistance on the 1 hour chart around 71.35, 71.40 from this cluster of moving averages. By the time we get there, they might be a little bit lower. That would be my best suggestion. I don't think I'd be trading any of these fib levels alone because they don't sort of line up with any other levels. I think those moving averages would be the only ones that I would really want to trade. If we get any higher, then we've got a little trend line here around 71, 75, 80, but I don't think we're going to see that on Monday, so I'll just have to review that afterwards. New Zealand dollar, well, trading sideways in a narrowing range. You know, they've got this upper trend line here at 68.95, so anywhere in that 68.90, 68.99 area would be worth a short. We've got highs up at 69.01. So you could have a stop above 69.05. If we then get up further, we've got strong resistance to 69.25, but that's a long way away. On the downside, we have a trend line going back to the beginning of January at 67.80, 67.75. So maybe we could try a long. Well, actually, do you know what? A long in the 67.75, 67.65 area would probably be the trade to do. 10 pip range, get in there. It's a nice simple trade because we stop out below 67.40. So the risk is relatively low. If the level holds, then I would imagine we'll be seeing 68.55 and who knows, maybe even 68.80, 68.90. So the risk reward is definitely worth it. Not the best trade in the world, but that's all I can get from this pair. Dollar yen, okay, this consolidated just below the 200-day moving average, so you would expect that to be some sort of, you know, a reasonable resistance level, and it was. However, the shorts here didn't work. With the blue 100 and the red 200-day moving averages meeting here, I thought that would really stall the market. We did have a little bit of divergence on the slow stochastics here at the bottom of the chart, but it was not to be, and the market just raced higher. So very strong performance on the weekly chart. That would be a very bullish blue candle. Look at that. Once we got through that 100-week moving average, we really raced higher. So 112.35 is the next target. We're nearly there. My target for Friday was 112.20, 112.10, 112.20 was my ultimate target. We only missed that by 3 pips. So it looks like we're going higher. 112.35, yeah, that's the next target and resistance. Don't think I'd be shorting there. It just doesn't seem to be a good idea. We've got very strong momentum. I'm just looking at the short-term charts and they look pretty good too. So we get through 112.35, 45, and then we're off to 112. 65, 85, who knows, we might even get up to this trend line up here, which is around 113.20. You can see this trend line goes back to the beginning of October, but pretty clear path, certainly a very clear path on the daily chart. And as I say, we've only got to get through 112.35 on the weekly chart. Right, Euro-Yen rocketed up through the 100-day moving average, which had held perfectly on Thursday, but Friday we just shot straight up to the next target at 127.40. More importantly than that trend line is the 200-week moving average at 127.30. So 127.30, 127.40, obvious resistance. We got to 127.50. So clearly this is the level to beat. We've got to get up through 127.50 this week if we are going to test the 200-day moving average at 128.10. There's a trend line up here at 128.60. So these are your two levels, your two targets, your two resistance areas for the week. On that note, you should have support at 126.80, 126.70. It would be worth a long down there. Okay, dollar versus the Swedish krona. Higher again on Friday as hoped. We had a little pullback actually. I need to show you the short-term chart. So as you can see, we're following the trend. We're in a long, we're in a bull trend. We've broken above this consolidation phase. We came back to retrace towards the trend line, and hopefully you got into a long there and are still holding along. I'm long and I'm still holding along over the weekend. So we had a little dip down on Friday initially to 921.22. I didn't think we'd dip that far, but anyway, that's the way markets work. Just looking at the 4-hour chart, no, nothing on there. Okay, so we've managed to close above this 1 week, 1.5 week trend line and the 100-hour moving average. So that looks good. We should continue higher, I think. On the short-term chart, we can get up to 929.85. On the daily chart, what's that telling us? Nothing really. We can continue higher. We've got to get up through 120. Yeah, 129 would be useful. 129.85 would be useful, and then we've got a fairly clear path up to previous peaks. 132.90, 137.04, 137.50, and then that high at 94.17. I think this all looks good. British pound versus the Swiss has come back. This has become a bit of a focus for me. I'm becoming a bit obsessed with this one and the dollar versus the Swedish krona. 131.50, 131.40, or even 131.55.45 is a decent enough support. We got close on Friday. We got to 131.63. I'd say this is a decent short-term support level on the hourly chart. What have we got up here? 131.20. Okay, so a stop below 131.20 would make sense. This peak is 131.71, so it's in between these two peaks. If we get down below 131.20, then we've got the support area down here at 130.80. I don't think we'll get there. I'll re-examine that if we do, but for now I think it's worth trying to get back in this around the 131.5 level and see if the bull trend resumes. Right, gold, what a beauty. We had the negative pattern. I don't need to tell you all about this again, but you know that I was calling gold lower, and after the pattern formed we were selling it around this resistance area around 1330, 1332. So we were short from here, and just a gorgeous trade, easy money. You just sit back and let the market tumble for you. I got out a bit too early. I was buying it just above the support level at 1303, or what I thought was going to be a support level. I was out around 1306, I think, but I'm happy to bag that. I'm 7 hours ahead of Europe, so I was going to bed and making sure I was flat for the weekend. That was the wrong move. I did think that this level would hold. I thought it was pretty strong, bearing in mind the lows around the first 2 weeks of February and the highs around the beginning of January up as far as 1298. So I thought that 1300 area would hold and we'd get a decent bounce. That was not the case. We absolutely collapsed through here. So if you took profit just above 1303, it's still a fantastic trade. If you lost a little bit on the break below 1299 on a long, you gave a little bit back. But still, it was worth a try. We collapsed as far as, where did we get to? 12, anyway, it's not showing me. 1289, wow. If you were smart and you reversed back into a short once you were stopped on the longs, that worked really well. I was asleep, so I didn't manage to do that. But this really does look negative still. So if you happen to still be holding shorts, just trying to look at the short-term charts, I I would be happy holding shorts. I'm now going to have to try and sell on any move back up to 1300. I think 1300, 1305. Going to have to try to get it, or I will get into a short if we get there. But I must admit, it's not looking likely at the moment. Silver, of course, we were short for all the reasons I explained during the week. Double top at important resistance. Friday we gathered momentum to the downside. I had targets of 1520, 1530 to cover shorts, and we hit that perfectly. In fact, we overran as far as 1512, so we've got support down on the 100-day moving average at 1504. This is a fairly decent support band between sort of 1515 and 1505. We're not very oversold yet. I'm just looking at the short-term charts. We are short-term oversold, of course, after such a big move to the downside. I wouldn't be buying longs here. I think the outlook is still negative. What I would hope for, because I've already taken profit on my shorts on gold and silver, is a nice bounce back to, well, you want to be selling on anything to sort of 1545, adding up to 1560, 1560, 1565 really. I mean, if we can get a bounce, just sell a little bit and a little bit more and scale into shorts, you know, all the way up to 1570 really. This really does look pretty negative, and I don't think it'll be too long before we break 1500 and collapse again.